serious engagement outside of the race studies center with other disciplines and other ideas that are bouncing off you. You got a history department with real historians. You got a philosophy department with real philosophers. You have an English department with real literary critics in it. These things should not be siloed. In a university, they should be integrated into the larger intellectual life of the institution, in my mind, in order to do the best work. I hear that our nemesis, Ibram X Kendi, is moving from Boston University to Howard University with his institute, and will be setting up shop there effective, I gather, the fall of 2025. What do you make of that?
Well, the institute at BU, Boston University, failed. It didn't produce anything over years' time. It had nothing to do with corruption. He didn't steal any money, but funding dried up. But when there was lots of funding, nothing happened to it. That's not his skill set. And I can definitely say it would not be mine. I couldn't run anything. I can barely run my own household. But it's not his skill set, and I think that's clear. Why in the world would Howard hire him to set up another institute like that when it's so clear what happened at BU? And I can't imagine what the idea is, that, what he and the Howard people are saying, that it didn't work out at BU because of something else, but rather clear from even unbiased media accounts. And of course, you and I know more, that it was him. He's just not, that's not what he does, including that he doesn't do scholarly work, as in he doesn't write refereed academic articles. How would he supervise people creating ones of their own? That's all. So it's a curious choice. And I don't know, it looks to me like with having Ta-Nehisi Coates and Nikole Hannah-Jones and Kendi, Howard is trying to assemble a lineup of superstars. But maybe I'm just behind the times. Maybe I'm stuffy. I don't know. But Ta-Nehisi Coates and Nikole Hannah-Jones are journalists. And okay, you can hire a journalist. But Ibram Kendi is called a historian, but he's not an academic historian. Never has been. It's not what he does. It's just these stars. And all power to them, but I'm not sure I quite understand that a university does that, as opposed to hiring Jelani Cobb, as opposed to hiring Roland Fryer, actual people who do or did actual scholarship. I just don't understand it, and I must admit it's a little disappointing.
Well, I'll make a number of points. According to Kendi, the model will be different.
Mm-hmm.
I saw him interviewed for the Washington Post about this move. The model at BU had a lot of staff that were employees, permanent employees that had to be supported. And you had to get the grant money year to year to make sure you could pay their salaries and keep them busy doing whatever they were doing. The model at Howard is going to be like postdocs or 1 year visiting fellowships that will rotate, and a person will come with a project that'll be vetted by a committee before they're selected, and they'll have their dissertation that they're converting into a book, or they'll have their research that they want to complete and write up and submit as an article. They'll work on that project. They'll be funded by Kendi Center, and then that'll be gone. And then the next year you'll have a different crop of postdocs or fellows who will be doing the same thing. He says he wants to concentrate on the African diaspora, and that he's especially interested in technology, AI, and climate issues, people's migratory patterns driven in part by climate change dynamics, and the introduction of very sophisticated large language model type AI systems could build in racial biases in one way or another, and he wants to try to identify that. So that seems to be his program. I don't know that it's the administrative aspect may be different, but I don't know that the intellectual content is particularly different from what he was doing at Boston University. the question of Howard, and you say, why don't they get Roland Fryer or somebody like that? Well, they can't. He's not going there. He's playing in a completely different league. I think of an acquaintance of mine, a friend. I think I can call him Khalil Gibran Muhammad, the historian. He was at Harvard. He was unhappy there. He moved to Princeton. His alternative options were Princeton or Columbia or Cornell or Stanford or something like that. He's a real player in the academic big leagues. So he has outside options, and Howard would be, I mean no disrespect to this at all, but from a certain point of view, it'd be a step down. It'd be playing in a different league from an academic point. And again, I really don't mean any disrespect. I'm just talking about the way people make their career decisions.
Yeah, maybe, and maybe that's what I'm misunderstanding. I'm expecting Howard to do something that it would not be in a position to do, in which case maybe it makes sense that instead you have celebrity journalists who can teach students a thing or two, or even somebody who's formally an academic but doesn't do academic work and is really a celebrity public thinking person of a sort. And okay, all right. I mean, it's not going to hurt anything, but it's just, actually, it doesn't make me angry. It really just has left me kind of perplexed. Although I must say, I almost feel sorry for somebody who all that they're seriously interested in is racist discrimination, how we're being discriminated against. And so you look at the most pressing issues in our world now, such as AI, climate change. And what you see is, how is that bad for us? Where's the racism in it? It's just, do you have anything else? And that's the Montessori kid in me. And I'm probably asking too much. It might even be a frivolous criticism. But what about us overall? What about an institute that's not just, if it's about the diaspora, diaspora is a nice word. I can say this now. I've seen that one. You say the African diaspora because you can fit anything under it. And I was in the African American Studies department at UC Berkeley now 400 years ago. I was there when they first got their doctoral program, and everybody was very excited about studying the diaspora. And really, that just meant studying anything. But if it's about the diaspora, is the only thing that happened in the diaspora that we got our asses kicked? What else? But whatever. All power to him.
Not to raise a contentious point, Ta-Nehisi Coates' book, The Message, about which you and I have vociferously disagreed in the past, and we need not rehash those disagreements because that's not going to be my point. My point here is, he goes to Senegal and he reflects self-consciously on the diaspora, on Black people coming home. Is this really home? What would that mean? On how people perceive him who are embedded within the indigenous Senegalese, in this case, setting, on myth, on ideas about history that are overly simplified and one-dimensional, but that serve a certain kind of purpose. I think this. I should say, really good friends with Orlando Patterson, the sociologist. He's Jamaican, and he's been around for 60, 70 years writing, 65 years writing. He writes novels, he writes big treatises, he writes smart essays, he does a range of different stuff. And the African diaspora spread throughout the New World, in the United Kingdom and other European venues and whatnot, that is something of great interest to him. And it's complex. It's really a rich vein of historical and humanistic and political and identitarian and whatnot. It's a very interesting thing. And I'm sure, you know this because we've encountered some Black people in Europe. I mean, and I remember that conference we went to in the United Kingdom, for example, the Equianos Project sponsor, who are very thoughtful, critically so, about exactly how the Black experience viewed in global perspective should be read. And I think would agree with it's not all negative. It's not all victimization. It's not all struggle against oppression and point of view. And, I'd like to think that a place like Howard University, which would bid to be a serious intellectual center, would see that. So there would be counterpoint. I mean, Nicole Hannah-Jones is a successful journalist. She mounted the 1619 Project at the New York Times Magazine. That's a piece of accomplished professional journalistic work. Whatever one might think about the project, you have to say that if you're a student of journalism and you get the benefit of her wisdom about, how do you manage that portfolio, that, you're being pretty well served. Ta-Nehisi Coates is a good writer. Again, whatever you might think about it, the brother can write. Writing seminar with him at the head of the classroom is going to be a scintillating experience for those students. There's nothing wrong with that.
Mm-hmm.
Ibram X Kendi, I wish I could say something similar about him. Nothing comes to mind at the moment except his books. How to Be an Anti-Racist was a runaway bestseller in the year of George Floyd. But, let me cut the brother some slack. God's not finished with him yet, as they say. Maybe he's going to surprise me coming down the pipe. I would say this, though. Serious engagement outside of the Race Studies Center with other disciplines and other ideas that are bouncing off you. You got a history department with real historians. You got a philosophy department with real philosophers. You have an English department with real literary critics in it. These things should not be siloed. They in a university, they should be integrated into the larger intellectual life of the institution, in my mind, in order to do the best work.